Okay, I think we're up. Sorry about that. Just see if we're going here. And we've got two people watching, it looks like. Myself, probably, and Mike. Okay. Okay, I think we're up. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if we've got people still coming in because I think the stream link changed accidentally as I was testing it this just a few minutes ago. Anyways, I apologize for that. Just trying to work out some of the little kinks here. Okay, yeah, I turned off the other thing that was causing the echo. Sorry about that. It had a bit of feedback going into the mic, I guess. All right. Yeah, so this is the training session 2, I guess. We did training session 1 last week, and that was the foundation plugin. And this week I want to kind of focus on some of the new changes and updates to the Truss plugin. So let me just pull that up real quick. I just wanted to kind of give you a quick overview of what I'm going to kind of talk about here. So basically we've made a lot of updates to the Truss plugin in just the last couple months here, really. Well, actually it started, I was primarily focusing on the wall plugin, and then I did a little bit of electrical plugin back in February. But what I've got going here into May, as you can see, about May 1st is when I started. So basically I'm going to kind of focus on all these updates that were made since May. And as you can see, there's quite a few of them. So, yeah, let's just jump right into it, I guess. I don't know, are we getting audio here? I think we are, so anyways, let me know if you're not hearing me as I show you some of these things. And it looks like our screen's coming up fine. All right. Okay, so first of all, I just wanted to jump into the global settings here, talk about a couple small items that have been changed. Number one is this new input color feature, and I'm sure some of you are probably more than aware of this. But basically, as you use some of the edit menus, and granted this hasn't been implemented in all of them, but you'll see as you change parameters, the input fields will be shaded this red color, and you can change this color, of course, to anything you want. It doesn't have to be red. But anyways, this allows you kind of to see what you've changed as you're updating parameters, and then once you hit update or commit those parameters, then this the coloring will go away so that you know that you've updated. So it's just kind of another visual cue within the menu system, the newer HTML menus, that allows you to have better understand what's going on. So yeah, good to see you, Larry. Looks like you're in. All right. So first of all, let's jump over to this the tools. Oh, and the other thing I wanted, before I get into the Rafter tools, I want to just tell everybody that some people aren't aware of this, but this draw floor truss option here, or tool, it does more than just floor trusses, by the way. It allows you to draw some I-joist and lumber floors as well. Some people aren't aware of that, and granted, this tool does need to be given some more attention. Currently I'm only allowing you to create rectangular outlines, so I'll just show that real quick here. So for instance, if you go in there and you go ahead and hit the advanced floor options. It gives you, quite a few options here. Seal plate and a few other things. You can inset within a stem wall, and if you do that, you can use hangers. So there's your TGIs. One thing though, you do have the ability to edit this assembly. This is parametric now, so it gives you that option. If you want to say change the size of these to something a little bigger, say 14s. It will. You've got that ability, but again, a little bit limited yet. I haven't got the ability to create polygon-shaped outlines. That is up and coming. So you can do kind of complex shaped floors. So just so everybody's aware that this particular tool gives you the ability, to create floor trusses, yes, but you can also do lumber and a bunch of other, commercially available I-joists as well. Okay, so sorry, I'm just bouncing around here a little bit, trying to get a couple things kind of covered here before I really get into the roofs that I've worked on. So, yeah, a lot of work was done on this rafter roof module here just in the last little bit, and so let's take a little bit look here at the gable roofs to start with. So let's just go ahead and just draw really quick gable roof here. Sure. Okay, the first thing to note is right now the old menus show up as you're creating these roofs. Initially as you draw the roofs. Now when you edit them, the HTML menus show up, and I do like those a lot better. They're just cleaner. Everything's much nicer. But yeah, I'm not really happy with these old menus at all, and I don't think anybody else is. So I will be doing away with them, replacing them with a much better HTML system. It's just I haven't quite got that far yet. So first thing to note is you can select symmetric gable, you can select asymmetric gable. Now if you do select asymmetric gable, you really can't, you're going to start with one pitch, okay, to begin with. And then you'll see what happens. So basically we go ahead, we'll just leave everything as default to get this going here. What I suggest is, go ahead and create your roof. Okay, a lot of features. See, yeah, jumping through all those menus, it's too cumbersome. It's not, it just isn't conducive to getting work done quickly. So we're gonna change that. So okay, so basically, you right click on this roof assembly, you edit that rafter assembly. Okay, so now we're popping up this nice little HTML menu, which everybody likes. Everything's here at your disposal. You can change things up. First thing to note is you've got this symmetric gable and asymmetric gable roof type. Okay, so if you select symmetric, that little additional set of parameters goes away. And notice how it's changed that color to red, because that means you've updated it, but you haven't hit this update yet. So once you hit this update, it clears all the red ones and it'll update the model. Okay. So let's go ahead and put that back to asymmetric, and I want to change this to let's say a 612 pitch. Okay, and you can do a number of other things. You can change the rafter depth, you can change the bird's mouth, you can even change the height of where this sits relative to where it sits here. So basically you've got an A and a B side of the roof. Okay, and the B side on a gable roof is always the right side, and then the A side is always what I call this left side. Okay, so yeah, let's just go ahead and update on that. Give it a second to do its thing. Okay, so one thing, so see how those rafters are not, the soffit and fascia is there, but it hasn't trimmed them. Let's go ahead and edit that rafter assembly one more time. Let's show you where that is. Yeah, so down here, there's a lot of options. Okay. Maybe too many, but there just is. There's a lot of parameters, because there's so many parameters that you need to define, a roof like this with. Soffit cut, go ahead, hit that, put that at 0, and that will trim. That'll trim these soffits back, basically right to the. When I say 0, it trims it right flush to the sub fascia here. Okay, so let's go ahead and update on that. You'll see what happens here. Give it a second. It's want to do its thing. And I apologize, my computer's a little slow. Whenever I run this streaming software, and then I'm running SketchUp Make, and I've got Make, and I use Make because I'm trying to keep it kind of, again, it's the lowest common denominator, and I'm trying to keep the plugins working for Make still, because there's a lot of people that still use that. But typically most of the people that are using this plugins are using newer versions of Pro, but I do want to keep it available to the people that are using Make. So that is the reason why I do a lot of my development and demonstrations in Make, just to basically prove that it still works in that older version of SketchUp. So okay, what to show you here? Okay, well, we've got a few things. Yeah, there's a lot going on. I guess let's see. We've gotten. I've added a lot of features with the Soffit and Fascia, and I guess what I want to show you really is it's on this menu more than the model per se. So, and a couple of things to note. The way I'm doing things here, I don't know if it's always the right way per se, but I've just kind of come up with my best guesses at it. So for instance, this is what I call a box Soffit and Fascia option, right? Kind of boxed out this end, and right here you've got ability to change that up a little bit. So you can do a gable or an angled. Let's go ahead and change that to a gable. See what happens. And it's updating. Okay, so now what it's done is it's it's changed up a little bit here, of course, and and basically your gable and sheathing and stuff would project out here and cover up this area. So there's basically three options right now. You got that, and you've got the angled as well. What the angled is basically situations where you've got well, let's demonstrate, I guess, and I think we can do it here. Just worried about these rafter tails here, how exactly they're going to work. I think I've got that worked out, though. It's been a while since I played with this, to be honest. Yeah, so basically when you do that, the soffit cut really kind of goes away. This parameter doesn't really matter on an angled soffit, and it basically trims your rafters. Let's change our material here, and you can always change these materials manually. And once you do, change the opacity on that, and then I'm going to go over here to the soffit material, just color it something different so you can differentiate between the two. Okay, there we go, better. So now, right, once you change these materials, you can use custom materials from the custom library, or you can change your material properties here with just natively. And then, as you're editing this roof, it's not going to try to recreate these materials. It's basically going to use whatever that material is as it's defined, and it's just going to try to reuse it. So that's kind of some of the smarts built into the plugin, I guess. Yeah, so basically what's happened here is you can see you've got basically a trimmed and this little space you're seeing in there. Okay, so that is a feature as well. Let's look at that real quick. And there's a lot of little details here. I mean, I can go into all kinds of details about what these parameters are, but I just want to kind of help you guys understand what some of them are. There's so many here. I mean, I don't know if I could even cover half of them. I mean, we're already 15 minutes into the discussion here, and we've covered very little, to be honest. But basically, this wall offset, that 0.4375, which is your 7/16 OSB, that is the number that is driving this offset. So it's basically allowing you to put your OSB, put that up through there rather than butting up direct. And sometimes people want that, and sometimes they don't, but I just allowed them that option. Okay, show how you change the plate height, Larry says. Okay, so let's do that. Might as well. Right, so with asymmetric roofs, now there's these four parameters basically. This delta height one, it kind of gets interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bump that up a foot. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Give it a second to update. Again, we have to wait. It takes a little time with this streaming going on, but just give it a second here. And it's doing its thing. Okay, there we go. And I probably should have put this on a something so you could see the height difference easily. Let's just go ahead and draw a line, I guess. Heavens, this will work. Okay. So, oh geez, I should just draw a little rectangle and make a little. I don't know. Just something here to demonstrate this. What's going on? Okay, good enough. That'll work. So what you've got now is you've got a delta height. Okay, that's a 12 inches rise, and what that's done, as you can see, is now you've got this A side of the roof is sitting on top of this stud wall, and then you get to this other side, and now you've got you've got all your pitches, everything remains the same. The only difference is now it's resting 12 inches up, and if I put a negative number in there, it will drive it down, so it'll be sitting down here. Okay, so that is what this delta height is allowing you to do. Okay, fairly basic in my opinion, but it's just another feature that you may need because your wall heights may be different on both sides of that roof. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just delete this what I've got there, and I am going to actually just put a little, actually, you know what, I'm going to use that grid tool. Let's do that. That's a handy little feature. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just make a little 24 by 32, or it doesn't even matter really what it is. Just some even numbered sort of, let's see. Yeah, that'll work, sure. Just make at least 24, I guess, huh? Yeah. Okay. Let's just drop it down here. 8 feet or so. Alright. Just make that a group. Okay, so now I'm going to go in and show you guys a little bit what we've got going on with the hip roofs. So the hip roofs are similar. We basically did a asymmetric on the hip roof, and that gets a little bit more complicated. So now you'll notice when you start, right, it doesn't give you an option for asymmetric. You have to start with a symmetric, and there's a reason for that. It partly has to do with these old menus. So again, this will change, but for now, let's just go ahead and get it started here, and just leave everything default. Okay, so there's our hip roof. Okay, and notice that it maintained these previous colors. Okay, or not colors, materials. So it said we want to use this Medeek white and this soft fascia white. So it's not recreating those materials. As long as those materials are in there, it will just use them. Okay, excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and hide this guy now, and you can kind of see up underneath there, and you can see we've got a symmetric roof, very basic. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit that roof. Okay. So now we change this symmetric to asymmetric. And by the way, you notice how I move the menu and that stays there? That's actually not a bug in the plugin. That's a bug in SketchUp. I think they fixed it finally in 2018 and 19. Actually, I'm not sure about 2018, but I know it's an issue with 2017 when you move your menus and these drop-down boxes don't follow you. So just a little, yeah, it has nothing to do with the plugin. So asymmetric hip. Okay, here we go. Right. So now you see right away we open up this whole menu, right? And it's rather involved, and it looks overwhelming, but it's not. Basically, all it's doing, it's giving you parameters, and there's 4 each for each plane of the roof. Okay, so roof A, B, C, and D. C is the front, D is the back, B is left or right, and then A is always the left. Okay, and so each one of these roof planes can be altered. Okay, so let's go ahead, let's change that to a 6/12 pitch. Let's change this to an 8. Maybe that is 7. It doesn't really matter. Actually, let's, yeah, sure, it's fine. And let's go ahead and update. It's going to take a little while because this streaming thing is making it slow, but give it a second. It's thinking. Don't crash my SketchUp. Yeah, this thing is slow today. Well, I think it's going to work. Gosh, I don't know. I need to restart. With this streaming software, I may need to find one that's a little more lean that doesn't run so heavy. Anyway, okay, there it goes. It finally updated. Yeah, it normally doesn't take quite that long. Anyways, okay, so yeah, there's your roof. Let's take a look at some of these layers here. Let's just turn off a couple layers so we can see what's going on underneath the hood here. Let's see, roof cladding. Yeah, there we go. Roof sheathing. All right. So, yeah, you've got an interesting roof now. So you've got, every plane of the roof is a different pitch. Granted, this bird's mouth cut is probably not good. We would need to change that, but anyways. And I think we also changed the oh, we didn't change the Soffit and Fascia. Well, with Soffit and Fascia, really, with a hip roof, you only have one option. That, right now, I don't think that gives you the option for an angled Soffit and Fascia. Actually, let's take a look at that. Soffit and Fascia. Yeah, there's no option right now as far as Soffit and Fascia. Just a standard, flat Soffit. And I may add in an angled one at some point too. I haven't gotten quite that far. Anyways, just like the gable roof, you can go ahead, you can change up these offsets, and it will relative. So basically what happens is that basically your 0 point is on A, and then B, C, and D, you can go ahead and change those and offset it negative or positive, up or down. You can change, the rafter depth on each side of the roof to, because this one might be longer, which it is obviously than say this one over here, and so you may want these rafters to be thicker or deeper than the other side. Okay, yeah, I mean there's a lot of parameters. I mean some of these are covered in some of the other tutorials, so I'm not going to get into all those. Soffit and Fascia again. Same thing there. Like I said, the only thing is right now you're only offered one option with Soffit and Fascia on these roof types, on the hip roof. Let's take a look at some other things that we've changed here. I'm just going to go and take a look here on my list that I wanted to go through. Oh yes, no framing mode. So as you can see, sometimes you've got a roof like this, and you want this all. Well, let's say you're doing some sort of conceptual study. You don't want all this in there, okay? Maybe you just want to have kind of a solid, okay? So if I edit this rafter assembly, and I go right here, and this is a new parameter, roof framing, okay? I can turn this, and there is no 2D option yet, but I do have that planned. You can turn that off, okay? You can hit no on that. Okay, and now we're going to give it a second here to update again. I apologize it takes so long. Not sure why that's running like that so slowly. But yeah, this no framing mode is kind of nice because it allows you to kind of do your conceptual models and not have to get the model too heavy. So what's happened here is, and you still have your sheathing and your cladding. Basically the end result roof looks the same. You've got all your soffit and fascia, your gutter, all that good stuff. The only difference is that now all that internal framing is just replaced by a single solid. Okay, and it should be a solid. Let's check. Actually, well, in this case, with a hip roof, right? I apologize. It's actually, it generates, it drops it into 4 solids. Okay, so they're all next to each other essentially. They're butted up next to each other. Um, I'm just gonna drag these apart, and you can see what's going on here. Just because I can, um, and you can kind of see what's happening. Okay, so basically, it's taken all that Rafter geometry, and you've got yourself, 4 solids. And what the nice thing is that gives you the ability, you got these roof planes if you need to do some sort of, whatever you need to do, manual stuff. Basically, it gives you that ability to kind of conceptualize things and not deal with all the intricate roof framing geometry. So I think that's a handy feature that's been added. Yeah, so I'm just kind of going down through this list here of things and looking at things that I've done recently. And if you have any questions on anything, let me know, because I'm here. I'm trying to cater to whatever you guys want to look at specifically. Earlier, Espen Hilmerson asks, is a lumber 4 option also parametric? Yes, it should be parametric, as far as I remember. I'm going to check on that here. I haven't done a lot with the lumber floors too much recently, simply because I don't use them myself much. I typically use I-joists, but yeah, it should be parametric if I remember right. I'm just going to hit all the defaults here. Actually, maybe not. That one may not be parametric yet. I'd have to look back into my changelog and take a look at that. That one may or may not be. Larry says, having a hard time hearing you. Are we losing audio here? Let me see if I can change it up a little bit here. Can you hear me a little better now? I'm just turning up the mic a little bit. Maybe that's an issue. Yeah, I apologize. I think I thought we had made that parametric, but it looks to me like that maybe we did not. I'm going to just check and see here. Pull that open. Yeah, my suspicion is that I need to go in there and turn the parametrics on for that. And actually, that's not really that big of a deal. It's not that hard to do, as far as getting that parametrics going. So I can probably get that done fairly easily. Yeah, and these should all be working in metric. If you notice any issues with metric, let me know. Granted, I don't test things as extensively in the metric as I do in imperial units, so sometimes I miss things. But I've been making it a point to try to do more testing in metric. Okay, so I'm going to jump back here. Okay, Mike asks, how do you trim the fascia tail at the bottom of the gable end? You trim the tails on the soffit. Okay, so you mean the tails. Okay, let's go ahead and draw. Okay, great. The audio sounds like it's coming in good. I'm going to go ahead and do another gable roof real quick. Just real quick here, draw one out. Okay, and I am going to. Okay, I'm going to leave everything to default for now. It makes it fairly simple. I'll turn that on flush and okay. And you're saying trim the tails. Okay, in this case, we are trimming the tails at the bottom of the gable end. I'm not sure on that question. Unless, of course, you're talking about if we change this Soffit and Fascia style to say, I think I know maybe what you're talking about, to the Gable style. Is that what we're talking about here? I don't know why editing is so slow for me today. Jeez, I just don't know. It is really slow. Maybe I just need to reboot my SketchUp version here. Anyways, but while I'm waiting for that to update, I'm going to jump back over to my list here, just going over a few more things. God, I think I need to reboot 2017. It's going a little crazy right now. It's just not updating quick enough. I think what you're talking about is trimming the tail here in this situation. Is that what we're talking about? Right, without the box, exactly. Yeah, I haven't got it set up to trim this particular tail, and the reason is, maybe I need to add that as another little option, because to make it flush with the eave here. Typically here in my locale, we don't if we do this style, we don't trim that tail. In fact, a lot of guys tend to extend it out a little further, but yeah, it's just it's probably something I need to add in as an option. So I've seen it both ways. I've seen it where this little hanging over bit is trimmed flush, and in a lot of cases it's not. So I'll add that to my to-do list here of things to do on these Soffit fascia. Actually, let me grab my pad here. Just trim tail of the rake fascia. Got it. Okay. As far as trimming these tails, this is done with the Soffit cut parameter. Okay, so and you can see that we already had applied that. So down here, Soffit cut. You can either set this to 0 or you can just set to flush, either one, and it will flush it up right to with this fascia border, the subfascia. Okay, so that's, and if you want to have it more or less, you can put in numbers in there, and you can have it like if you put in like 0.75, it will be 3/4 of an inch up from the subfascia. Okay, right. Let me go back here. Michael Monroe says, would you detail trusses 6 feet on center with lateral 2x6 32 on center and standing seam metal roof? Would you detail trusses? I'm not really following what you're asking for me to do exactly there. Okay, so let me jump back to I'm going to just jump back to this real quick to go over a couple more things. Yeah, we covered the no framing mode. So the Soffit and Fascia has been enabled for rafter roofs. I've actually enabled it for truss roofs as well. Not every truss roof has the advanced options. A lot of these trusses are still kind of experimental. Like the Polynesian, I don't have a lot of. I think I don't have any advanced options actually yet for that. But your common trusses, and all of this is documented, of course, in the change log. If you want to know specifically which truss types have what features, but basically your attic, these ones up here, kind of more these 4 really are your most commonly used trusses. But I'm just going to do a basic common truss here, and just show you that real quick. Okay, sure. Let's just leave everything default for now. And the truss menu comes up a little differently with the advanced options. Let's just go hit submit. Sure. It's got a few little things. Okay. So again, Soffit and Fascia here being generated. And if you go ahead and edit this truss assembly, the edit menus are pretty similar really with the rafter and the trusses now, but we've still got a little bit of work to do with the front end when you start first drawing stuff. We're going to push it all over to these HTML menus. So yeah, very very similar. You can edit your soffit and fascia. You've got different things. Oh, this one's kind of an interesting little parameter, the soffit box extension. So typically when you draw a soffit box, the way I have it drawing is it's right in line with this right there on the corner, right, with your building. But let's say that you want to extend it back this way a little bit, right? So let's just throw in 12 inches and see if we can make it do that. Okay, so see now what's happened is it kind of wraps around and it gives you this kind of look. Okay, so that's what that parameter is all about. And again, there's that little wall offset parameter. That's basically saying, hey, push this actually demonstrates it quite well here. It pushes this up to your OSB. It doesn't bring it right to the framing. If you want to account for your cladding and everything, you can change that number up. I didn't try to make it work with this specifically, like say, if you got OSB, it's going to send it to there or there. I just kind of left it open-ended for the user so they can adjust that. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, don't try to use a 0 thickness on your fascia or your soffit, like for metal or something. Turns out I had a user that was trying to do that, and it does not work. If you try to put a 0 thickness in there, it's trying to do a push-pull on a 0 thickness, and it breaks the plugin. So something to be aware of. Okay. Let me see. We've got more questions going on here. Okay, post and frame construction from Michael Monroe. Yeah, you can. I haven't really set up this plugin to do much, like specifically with post and frame type stuff. So a lot of times I'll do like a double truss on each side of a post or something. That's kind of the specialty items type stuff that I would need to program this plugin for. But yeah, you can always set your trusses at any on center spacing. It doesn't have to be 2 foot on center. You can change them to 6 feet on center, 10 feet on center, whatever you need to do. That's pretty much whatever. Soffit vents parameter. I've thought about the soffit vents. I'm not really sure what to do there. I thought about using a texture of sorts to kind of show a soffit vent. Because I've seen where I don't know. There's all sorts of thinking on that. I've seen the aluminum type soffits where you have kind of that looks like ribbed material almost. So I thought a guy could use that material and just create their own soffit look. And then there's of course the type where you kind of have a strip running down about midway through the soffit, and you have another strip for holes essentially, like a little metal insert, I guess it is. I've seen both here used locally. I don't know, I'll have to give that some more thought. Basically send me some more details on what you might want to see done differently with soffit and venting, and I can take a look at that. But yeah, so like I said, I just want to show you that the soffit and fascia feature is available for these roof trusses. One thing also too that's kind of cool is, and I think we can make it work here, I am going to go to there's so many options now, it's kind of getting crazy, but let's go to the advanced options here, and let's turn on this roof returns. Okay, so roof returns are always fun. Let's just go ahead and update and see what happens here. Okay, so now we've got ourselves hip returns, right? And you can see I still have not added that Gable return, which makes this here roof plane go away, and it sends it straight up and down. But I have the full return, which sends it all the way across, as well as but let's show you what happens with the soffit and fascia. So this is where the programming got really crazy because, you know, you got all these options, and when you start doing this, now you've got fascia board wrapping all the way around, and you've got fascia up here that cuts off right there. You know, you guys don't even understand what's happening underneath the hood on this thing. It's insane because you've just got so many possible cases and configurations. It gets really nuts. But so there's your soffit and fascia with roof returns. So now we'll go to a full hip return. Did not update. Oh no, roof return full. That's what I need to do. There we go. Okay, so now a full return is kind of almost like a hip. The soffit and fascia, at least around this, is similar to a hip roof, but then you still got, you know, some pieces up here that are happening. So yeah, so you've got all kinds of crazy stuff. The gutter would not wrap around, of course. Which one are we talking about here? Well, yes and no. I don't know. You can, and I kind of gave people this option. Let's go over the gutter option real quick. So now we've got it wrapping around, right? All the way around. Let's change that up here. Let's see what happens. I can't remember what I've done even with this. It's actually no wrap, yes. Okay, so now you can see I terminate the gutter here rather than wrapping it around. So, you know, you can make it wrap if you want, but you're right, it probably wouldn't if this roof is so small. But that option is there. Okay, Dutch roofs. Well, so I've done a lot of work on this rafter roof thing, but okay, first of all, you can see that there's a lot of, you know, the shed roofs have the soffit and fascia, the gable roofs, and the hip roof. Now we still have the Dutch gable roof, and we still have some of these other roofs where you've got glulam beams and such going on. Some of those I still have a bunch of work to do on. So unfortunately, yeah, they're not. Again, the changelog will tell you exactly which roof types have, you know, certain features added, but there's a lot of work yet to be done to bring everything up to speed. So bottom line is, common roofs, hip roofs, gable roofs, those three, and you know, scissor trusses and attic trusses, and a lot of those have all the options, but there's a number of specialty roof types that do not have all the options. So it's just a matter of working my way down through it and adding all of those in. But right now I'm currently working on this complex roof module, which will allow you to essentially just draw out a polygon or select a face, and then it will automatically generate your entire roof, you know, basically without having to do any of this manual, you know, merging this roof with that roof sort of a thing, trying to get away from that. You know, any sort of manual editing on these assemblies is a pain in the butt, because once you start manually editing, now you've just lost all your parametrics, right? I mean, if I go in here and add a bunch of stuff in, or delete a bunch of stuff, or trim a bunch of stuff, as soon as I regen that roof, then I've just blown away everything that I've manually done to that assembly. So yeah, I'm trying to provide enough tools so that manual editing is minimized as much as possible. So really what's going to happen is we're going to have there's going to be two pieces to this complex roof. Really, there's a complex roof, and then there's a secondary roof. So really it's two things. And the secondary roof concept is, you know, you draw your primary roof like this, and of course it could be a complex as the primary, and then you can start adding pieces to it. Like you pick a couple points here, pick the plane of the roof, or just the roof assembly itself, and now boom, all of a sudden it connects that roof into that primary roof. So yeah, so secondary roofs and complex roofs, that's kind of the direction I'm going right now. And granted, you know, all these other roof types and trusses and such, all of that needs, you know, a lot of those need further attention to bring them up to speed. Give them the soffit and fascia option. Most of them already have, you know, a lot of them already have things like sheeted and cladded and gutter, but the newer stuff like the Soffit and Fascia has to be added to a lot of these other truss and rafter types. When will complex roofs be ready? Well, I don't have a time frame on it, but I will say that I have worked out the algorithm finally, and that actually was about back in May when I really the problem was with complex roofs is I hadn't figured out what's called the straight skeleton algorithm. Okay, and that really was the crux of the problem. I couldn't figure out how to figure out where my roof planes were. But using a slightly different technique, I think I finally solved that problem, and now I can establish where all the roof planes are, and yeah. So I think I have a solution, and so now I'm working on it. Basically, right now I'm working on the menus. So and the reason why that menus are so important is what's going to happen is they're going to be a little bit dynamic. So with a roof like this, it's pretty static, right? Well, the roof isn't static, but the menu is static. I mean, there's only so many roof planes that you're dealing with on a simple roof like this. However, when you start dealing with a complex roof, if you have the feature where you can edit the shape of that roof, the outline that defines that roof, then all of a sudden now you may be changing up the number of roof planes in the whole, the entire shape of that roof. So now if I have every roof plane I've defined, let's say that I want to change, say, the pitch on this roof plane over here, and change this pitch over here to there. Well, so when I edit that, I need to have the menu system where it dynamically updates, and so it gives you basically a drop-down box for every roof plane so that you can change the pitch on each roof plane. So that's what I mean by dynamic. The roof, yes, the roofs are dynamic in the fact that you can change them, or parametric, but the menu system itself now needs to be able to be scalable as you're changing up these roofs, complex roofs. Sorry. So yeah, it's complicated to say the least, and so that is kind of what I've always been trying to have available right from the get-go was I've always been thinking about complex roofs, and just like I said, in the last couple months here, I finally think I figured it out. Manual changes. So yeah, so for now, basically, you're having to manually merge roofs together, and that does get a little tedious and ugly, in my opinion. And again, that's why I don't really I don't like dealing with it personally, because it's such a pain. But that is partly why I've included this toolbar here. Okay, and really it comes down to these new tools. Well, in particular, this trim, what I call the trim member 2 tool. Okay, so initially I had just these two, a trim and an extend feature. This one here allows you to trim an object with two planes. Okay, and the reason why that gets interesting is because I'm going to show you real quick. Actually, could get interesting. Let's see if we can make this happen. I'm going to just throw a quick little truss roof here going this direction, and I'm just going to send it. Oh, heck, I'll just send it over here. It doesn't matter. All the defaults. Okay. So now we've got two roofs, right? One's merging into the other. Okay. So the first things first, typically what I would do is I would turn off a bunch of stuff and just deal with one thing at a time, like this cladding, right? So let's go. Sorry, I'm going to divert a little bit into this just to kind of show you guys what you can do with some of the tools. I'm going to turn everything off except for just the cladding, so we can just deal with that separately. and you can just turn these layers off, and then your let's see, where's my gutter here? Geez, I can't seem to find anything today. It's too much going on. Okay, so let's turn off the trusses too. Sure, we got a lot of layers here. What else we got turned on here? Gypsum. Shoot, we should just turn everything off and then turn on the one we want. That would be easier. Okay, Soffit and Fascia. Yes, I think I have that all in one layer right now. There we go. Yeah, okay. And we've got cladding. Sorry, this is taking me a second here. Wall cladding, wall sheathing. And we've got some additional framing going on. Okay, there we go. So now, look, we've got just the cladding turned on for now. Okay, that'll make it so we can navigate quicker. So the easy thing to do, like if I were to trim this out, right? So I'm going to trim some of this stuff. Just use the basic trim tool. I'm going to select, this face maybe right here. And when I do that, it selected that face. And I'm going to select this edge right here. Okay. And when I do that, bingo, you're going to see it trimmed that piece of cladding. And then this face still remains selected. This is my trimming face, okay? So I don't have to reselect anything. I can just come right back over here and I'm going to trim this piece. Okay, so now I've trimmed that. And now I'm going to trim this little guy right here. Okay. So nice. So now I've trimmed out, and then I'm going to jump into this assembly. I'm just going to delete that guy. I don't even need him anymore. Okay, so I've gone ahead, I've trimmed out just that, this secondary roof that's tying into the primary. But now, the first thing you're going to say is you say, well, hey, the problem is I've got this chunk of cladding that I no longer need, right? That cladding is not being used. And yes, you're perfectly right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this what I call the trim to tool to deal with that. Now if I were to try to trim this primary roof's cladding with the regular trim tool, it's not going to work because it only allows me to select one face. Okay, that's no good. What this other one does is it allows me to select two faces. Okay, so now it says click first trimming plane, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim it. I don't know which face to trim to. We can trim to either in or out, but I'm going to just select that face. And now it's saying select your second trimming plane, right? So I'm going to go ahead over here and just make sure it's kind of okay. So now I've selected, and it keeps them colored. Your primary and your secondary, and don't worry about these kind of artifacts. I don't know. Sometimes it does that. But you've got basically both trimming faces selected. Okay. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select this edge of this chunk of cladding right here. Okay, so, and you want to select the edge that you want to remove. Okay, so now I am going to just pull back out here, and you can see that that two-plane cut has worked because I'm going to pull this assembly back and you can look at it. And you can see that it trimmed that entity with those two faces and took away that little triangle of material. Okay, so basically that's what you can do with right now manually with roof sheathing and roof cladding. You can get there manually, yes, but again, it's tedious, and I agree it's not the optimal solution that that we need to have. So. But basically, then what I would do is I would essentially, hide this layer here, the roof cladding layer. Gosh, I can never find my layers. Just got too many going on. It's not even it's not even a numbering system or anything. It's just there's too many. There's just too many layers. So basically, I would again do the same steps that I just did with the cladding. I would just hit the trim tool, select that, go ahead and select that one, select that one. That's trimmed out the secondary. Jump in here, you know, grab this. And then jump back here, hit the secondary or the two-plane trim, which is this guy, and select this face, select that face, go under here. There we go. Okay, so now there you go. There's your that. Now if I turn back on the wall roof cladding and everything, and let's just pull these two assemblies apart so we can see what we've got. There you go. Roof or sheathing and cladding have both been trimmed. Now I trimmed them to different planes. You could trim them all to the same plane. You could turn on your roof cladding and sheathing and trim them at the same time and make sure that, you know, you trim to the same plane. But in this instance, I trimmed them each to, you know, the cladding or the sheathing planes on the opposing roofs. But it's however you want to do it. But bottom line is yeah, that gets you there with regards to your sheathing, cladding, to trim that out. And then of course, when it comes to the actual members, well, on a truss roof, of course, you do things a little differently. But with a rafter roof, you know, you can trim those members out too. But yeah, it's a bit of a process. So again, complex roofs, that is, you know, that is the optimal solution, and so that is what I'm currently working on. I'm just wrapping up a couple small more things with the foundation plugin this week, or maybe actually not even this week, just in the next couple days. I've got basically a couple small things to do there regarding let's see, the stem wall blockout, and I think there's one other thing I wanted to address as well. But beyond that, I don't have anything specifically on my plate other than the complex roofs, and so that I'll be jumping back on that here probably in the next day or two. Okay. No, with the trimming operations, did those area calculations update? They did not. The reason is because it's a manual update, right? So if I was to regenerate this roof right now, in fact, let's do that. Okay, if I were to edit this, I mean, the plugin has no way of knowing what I've done in here, right? If I update that, see, it just basically regenerated it from scratch, and so it just deleted everything I've done, and that's what I mean by manual updates. You know, you can't rely on manual updates because the problem is there's no way for the plugin to know what you've done to that assembly. You know, all the stuff within that assembly. I mean, you may have cut a hole in the roof, a skylight, or did this or that. There's really no way for the plugin to track that information. And even if it did, you know, it would be. I just don't know. I don't even know how I would begin to track that. Honestly, I don't. So manual updates, there's no way to track that information. So yeah, complex roofs, we need to get that done. So yeah, so in an instance, for instance, again, back to that idea of popping holes in roofs, you know, for a chimney or a skylight or something. So that is actually another feature that's on my list here of things to do. And so that would be stored. So I would have a tool that, you know, you can pop a hole in the roof for a skylight or something, and add a skylight. And then of course that stores it in the attribute library. Oh, and by the way, I've got this little tool here that Enoroth has created. It's called the attribute editor. So underneath the hood, just to show you guys really quick here, this is all the information that defines that roof, right? This is what's being stored. And you can see there's a lot of parameters, and those parameters are all being exposed in that edit menu. And basically, you know, this is what is being utilized to regenerate that roof when you make a change. And so unless it's stored here, whatever manual changes or whatever you've done, if it's not stored here, and it isn't, then it won't be regenerated. You know, every item that has to be defining that roof is stored here. So and interestingly enough, see, I've got some stats, right? So this information is being collected and stored as you update your roof, and then this information is being picked up by the estimator piece that still is in development, and then that will be utilized, to generate estimates about how much ridge cap, drip edge, sheathing, cladding, etc. So yeah, just so you know, this is really what this is really what your roof is. It's just a bunch of parameters, and then the plugin takes all this information, all this data, and it knows how to generate the actual physical geometry from it. So the kind of the cool thing that I tell people is like, look, it's really just a physical manifestation of the data. If I go in here and I start deleting all this geometry, I'm going to turn on all this stuff, right? Okay. I'm just going to, muck up a bunch of stuff in here. Okay. So you say, well, that's your roof. No, that's not your roof. Really what your roof is that attribute library, because when I regenerate it, it puts it all back, right? So anyways, so that's pretty much I've covered about as much material as I planned on in the time frame. Is there any more specific questions? I saw drip edge. Where is that on the parameters? Looking forward to complex roof. So currently there is no drip edge. I have been kind of thinking that through, wondering maybe I do want to provide drip edge, maybe I don't. But I haven't really pulled that trigger yet. I just haven't. I haven't gotten there. It wasn't. I guess it's still kind of on my radar, but it's not something that's. There's been a little demand for it, but not enough to say, okay, I want to go through all the work. And honestly, with drip edge, it gets really ugly, especially with asymmetric hip roofs. Well, you start dealing with this sort of thing, and now you're trimming the drip edge along these beveled sort of, I don't know, it gets really interesting. So bottom line is the module that will create the drip edge is going to have to be pretty special, and I can make it happen, but it's going to take some effort. So I don't know, I'll if there's enough demand for the drip edge, then I will pursue it. But right now there's some bigger fish to fry, and I'm trying to, again, that complex roof thing is staring me in the face, and I want to get it done. So that is really what I'm focusing on at the moment. Any more questions, or have I given you guys enough? Again, these roofs and this Truss plugin is really quite deep. And there's so many. Honestly, it really should be relabeled the roof and floor plugin. And actually, I should probably kind of pull this whole floor piece out separate into its own separate plugin for floors. But the problem with that is that the problem with really, you've got those trusses, right? And those floor trusses, and floor trusses are still trusses, so that's how it became part of the truss plugin. And so that's why the floor thing got wrapped into the whole roof and truss thing. But anyways, yeah, there's a lot of work here to be done, and I will continue working on it. So again, thank you everybody for participating and coming and showing up. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead, email me. I'm always interested in feedback, because these additional little details that I can add to the ability as you, the designer, to not have to create them manually, and that saves time, and time is money. So that's what I want to do. So again, thank you very much, and hope you guys have a great weekend. All right.